on the lawn, Peace Camp Sunday, August 7th, and Molly Scott's in the front yard singing. And going to do an interview with, I have to ask her name. Could you tell us your name first so we get that on tape?
Karen Schweitzer.
Okay, Karen's going to talk to us about the action that was done at the truck gate this past Tuesday. So, I don't know anything about it, Karen, so could you just fill me in on when the action started, maybe a little bit behind, what you talked about before you went, why you went, what your purpose was?
Okay, we were part of the action that happened on Monday, August 1st, and we were a group who was going to do CD, civil disobedience, and what we had decided was that we wanted to blockade the truck gate. Rather than going over it, we wanted to make a statement that we weren't going to let any trucks or bombs or anything through that gate. And so we were going to blockade the truck gate, and other people started to blockade with us, and as time went on, a lot of the other groups got tired of waiting and decided they wanted to get arrested, so they hopped over the fence. And most of the people who went over the fence had gone over by about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and lo and behold, there were about 4 affinity groups left who hadn't gone over the fence. And our affinity group had a meeting and decided that we didn't want to go over the fence. That again, we decided that what we wanted to do was block the gate. And so we did, and a while later we talked to the other affinity groups that were left, and we all decided that we were going to stay together. So there were about 4 affinity groups that were there. There were my group that's from Western Massachusetts. There was a group called the Midwest Connection from Minnesota. There's a group from Michigan, and there were some women from Ohio, and there were some other women there who I'm not sure where they were from. And what we had all decided at that point was that we were going to stay there until they arrested us. And as it turned out, we stayed there through pouring rain that night and through the entire next day. Ended up that we stayed on federal property with tents pitched and food, tons of food and a stove and all the things necessary for an encampment for 28 hours.
That's pretty incredible. How many women altogether were there, and were you heckled or hassled at all through the night?
Let's start with how many women altogether were there. 26 women ended up being arrested, but we started out, I'd say, with close to 30, a little over 30 who were going to do CD. We started out with a woman in our affinity group who was 78 years old. She was our oldest member, and our youngest member who was doing support was 14. So our affinity group had a real wide range. With support people and everything else, there were probably about 35 women who were there constantly. We were getting some of the residual heckling from the action on Monday evening. As it got later and later, and people started, everyone was a little tired, and everyone had been out there for a long time, tension broke a little. The police line at one point split in half, so that half the state troopers left for a while, and we were just left with the sheriffs there who had stayed to protect us. And it started to break down, started to get relaxed. They broke their line, they weren't standing so stiff, and we started to talk to people. We still had people doing CD, sort of, if this is the fence, people doing CD outside the fence, and then a row of peacekeepers. And as the night went on, that started to break down, that things were a lot more relaxed. There was a lot of dialoguing going on with the people from the town. At that point, they weren't heckling as much as we were just all talking.
What kind of things were you talking about, and who started the conversations?
I think on the most part we started the conversations, talking about how people felt about the nuclear bombs, how people felt about us being there. A lot of questions about why were we there, why were we doing what we're doing. Is it true that 99% of all the women there are lesbians? We agree with you, but we don't necessarily think you should be doing it in this way. Some people were just making real human connections. I found someone who had the same job I had in a different state, which is really neat. talking on whatever level people were really willing to talk on. The next day, on Tuesday, there were hecklers there, and as time went on Tuesday, it caused a lot of tension. People came out, the group of people who've been at a lot of the demonstrations, the counter-demonstrators, came out with their flags and their hostility and their anger and started turning it on us. They came and they took things off the fence. They asked the MPs if they could go clean off the fence from the mess we made on August 1st, and they did. They went and they took down whatever had still been up there. And they were saying things to us like, please clean up our depot. We don't want to see our depot dirty, which is why they were taking the things off. They were also saying nasty things like, why don't you go back to Russia and all that other stuff that you've been hearing.
So, do you get the feeling that the people in the town, you said our depot, they think it's their depot, that it, I mean, there's people that work there obviously, but it's like it's a very integral part of their lives. It's a person from Syracuse, an older man, was talking to me this morning about this, and it heightened my awareness of it, that it's not just something that's there and it's ignored, etc. It's a very real big thing to these people. Do you get a feeling that they feel a sense of security and safety, and yet at the same time I've been hearing lots of stories about people who've begun to wonder, well, yes, it's nice to have the army here, etc., but what really is in there? You know, that they never, didn't want to think about it before. Of course, many people don't want to think about the nuclear question.
I think that they're protective of it because it's in their community. I think they feel that attachment to it because it's in their community. I don't know that they necessarily feel it protects them, but that it is a big part of their community. I think it's hard not to be aware of that large space that's not really part of your community but is. They feel like they own it, like it's theirs. Although, and someone today even said, that's our tax money. It's our tax money too. It's a federal place. It's our tax money too. Which I don't know that a lot of people understand that.
Can you tell me what it was that happened to you that caused you to get arrested? Because you said earlier to me that you didn't go there with the intent of getting arrested. You went there with the intent of blockading the truck gate. Yeah. So what actually happened?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you we were real victorious because we turned away 2 or 3 trucks that pulled in. 2 trucks that I saw, and someone said there was another one. They pulled in. The truck driver looked at us. He got out of his truck. He walked over to the MPs. The MPs turned him away. And I assume he just went in another gate. But the point was, if we could close down one gate, it was pretty good for us to have done that. We felt real strong. What happened was Tuesday, we'd been there overnight, and we were feeling real comfortable, and it was pretty obvious that the MPs were going to wait us out, that they didn't want to arrest us, that they wanted us to have to go away and be defeated, and we knew we weren't going to go away. And what happened was this group of counter-demonstrators was out there, and they started getting more and more hostile, and we were pretty small numbers. We had no real peacekeepers from the camp over there. We did it for ourselves, the peacekeeping. At one point, they sent some of the younger members of their group over to start taking the banners that we put up on the fence, one that said Women's Encampment and something else that we put up right on the fence behind our tarp. And they came over and ripped it down. And we just formed a circle and started singing, and they walked away. They didn't touch our personal belongings. They didn't touch any of our stuff. They just wanted the stuff off the fence. And that was the first time they made a move toward us. Before that, they had been back on the car. And I guess it was at that point also that they had taken a mannequin that someone had made for the action on Monday that was going to go over the fence. They took that mannequin, they tied it up to a stake. They tied its hands like this and tied its head up. And it was really disturbing to us, but we just, centered ourselves and sang and stayed in a circle. And after that, a bunch of women from the churches around the area came and did an ecumenical thing for us, service, that's it. And then the women from Women's International League for Peace and Freedom had come and joined us, and we were in a big circle, and I guess they felt that kind of threatening, because after that was over and we were all standing around and talking, they crossed the yellow line, and started to move closer. Because they saw we weren't getting arrested. They knew they weren't going to get arrested for doing the same thing. And it was just about it. At that point, it was after work, more people showing up. It was like 5 or 6. And things had been getting, slowly. Since about 3, things had been getting a little more escalated. At around noon, we had put up tents and the tarps and stuff. So that, all of a sudden it looked different there. It looked like we were staying. And when they started to shout, clean up, we cleaned up. We tidied everything and made everything look real neat, but it looked like we were staying. So when it got to the time when people were leaving work at about 5 o'clock, more women started coming over from the encampment. And slowly but surely, I'm not going to go into long drawn-out details of everything that happened, but it was escalating on both sides. More women from the depot were coming, and they were getting angrier and angrier. And one woman from the counter demonstration started to push someone and poke them and verbally abuse them. There was a lot of verbal abuse going on, a lot of really hurtful comments that were really hard to stand and take. Some of the peacekeepers were facing away, had turned their backs so they didn't have to listen to it. Some were still facing them. And it was real hard. We were in a line that was all spread out at this point, going across the truck gate entrance. And it escalated and escalated and escalated until it was getting darker and darker out. And somewhere around 8 or 8:30, someone came and went to the MPs and said, it was 2 teenagers from town who had been, I guess, either part of the counter demonstrators or just part of the townspeople that were looking on, because by that time there were 3 groups. There was the women from the peace camp, there were the counter demonstrators, and then there were townspeople who were just curious, but they weren't actively being counter demonstrators. The MPs came out, and it was real tense by then already. I mean, it had changed drastically since earlier in the afternoon. It was real tense, and you could feel it. And we had had a lot of peacekeepers there by then. I'd say there were about 40 or 50 of them. And we came out, the MPs came out, and we thought they were about to arrest us. So we sat down in front of the gate, those of us doing CD. And they came out, they took their police blockades and pushed everyone back over across the yellow line so that they'd be back under the jurisdiction of the state police. The state police were there through the night until 7 in the morning, at which point they left except for 2 cars. So when all of this started, there were about 4 state police, and when it started to escalate, the state police also came in. So it was escalating actually on 3 levels. So they pushed it back so the state police could do something, because what they felt like was the MPs couldn't do anything, and they didn't want to arrest the whole crowd. So they pushed everyone back so the state police could do what they had to do. So at that point, there was a line of peacekeepers on the yellow line, then there was a line of MPs, and then there was a line of counter demonstrators. And that was at the time when both the peacekeepers and the state police started to ask the people doing CD to do something, to break the tension. And that was when it took us about probably close to 45 minutes to decide 3 times that we were going to stay there. The peacekeepers were scared because of all the violence. The state police didn't want anything to happen, and they said, we can't ask either of you to disperse first, because either way it's unfair. And we said, look, we don't want to leave. And we told the peacekeepers they could leave, and the peacekeepers said, we won't leave you being here because we're scared that you guys would get hurt. The MPs had said, we're not going to do anything if violence breaks out. They were pissed because, remember I said 2 people had asked them to move the line back. Well, no one had left when the line got moved back. They thought we lied to them. And what happened was it wasn't us who asked them to move it, but they wouldn't. We negotiated with the MPs, we negotiated with the state police. The MPs wouldn't believe that it wasn't us who asked them. And it took a long time. And it took a lot of people saying, please reconsider, we don't want any violence. And the MPs kept, acting as if they weren't going to arrest. And the state police didn't know what to do. This real nice guy who kept saying, come on, you've achieved your point, you've been here, you've shown everyone you could be here, just jump the fence. And it was, being able to negotiate with them was really good. That was real important. That's something that I also felt was really important about the action. And so what happened was we decided for the third and final time we weren't going to leave. We told the peacekeepers, do what you have to do. We're not leaving. We told the state police, we're sorry. We don't want to cause you, we don't want violence either, but we're not moving. And at that point, about 5 minutes later, not even 5 minutes, the MPs arrested us. Took us in. I guess they they realized that finally it was going to have to be their choice to break the tension. And they did. Okay, let's go. You want to ask me one final question?
Any last comments, couple of minutes, anything you want to say about, you look real joyful, you look like you're glad that you did it. That just, again, there's certain things that happen at each of these demonstrations that, some changes are made, some transitions take place for lots of people on many levels, so.
Yeah, for us it was really empowering to be there. When we turned the trucks away, it was empowering, and for us it was real important to be able to talk to people, to be able to talk to the townspeople there. And I felt also like it let people who are uneasy with August 1st, the townspeople who are uneasy with that, have a chance to talk. It also let August 1st go on. It didn't die. And I think between that and what happened at Waterloo, it added a little more dimension to August 1st than it just being a one-day action with people just going over the fence. And to me, that was real important. It felt really good.
Thanks very much for doing it. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you for being here to talk to about it.
Singing for our lives. We are an active, loving people, and we are singing for our lives. We are what? We are sunshine-loving people, and we are singing for our lives.
Come get in the picture and get signed in.
Sunshine-loving people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a patient, stubborn people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a patient, stubborn people, and we are singing for our lives. We are and we are singing, singing for our lives.
People loving.
We are people loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are people loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing.